PE 1296 is the next petition and is by Robert Thompson on behalf of LDNNow on NHS availability of Low Dose Naltrexone. Can I have members' thoughts on this petition, please? Anne.
Yeah, I was really interested in this. As far as I remember, and it was some time ago, the petitioners came and gave evidence to the committee, didn't they? And I thought it was something that would have been of more interest than it seems to have been. I mean, I know the government has met with the petitioner, but the petitioner is saying it was a very positive meeting, but nothing's really happened. And, you know, given that there is the potential for lower cost medicines at a time when our funding is being dramatically cut from Westminster, I would have thought it would have been in our interests to investigate this. And I do understand everything that, you know, it's not the Scottish Government who would do the research and all the rest of it, but I think the petitioner in his last response has asked a couple of questions that I think it would be worth writing and asking. He's asking how can the Scottish Government assist patients and patient groups to contact researchers and get them interested in this research. I think that relates to his final question, which was his third question, which was how is it best to deal with these situations where they arise, where what the suggestion is that it's financially not really that interesting a research prospect to medical companies, but it's it should be an interesting prospect in terms of public health. So how do you get round that? And he's asking us to ask the government, how do you get round that? I would have thought it would be something that somebody, maybe even an individual MSP, would want to take up. You know, is looking at this. We can't just allow drugs companies to investigate drugs that are going to make them a whole load of money. So I would ask those two questions related together. And the other question was, how can GPs be better educated about LDN? And I suppose the government will say, well, you know, we need to wait until there's research done. But I think the big question is, not just for LDN, although I was very taken with their evidence, but it is about, as I said, other drugs that, you know, are maybe not as profitable to drugs companies. How do we get the research done, and can the government assist? It may not be something they would normally do, but can they assist in putting the petitioners in touch with people who might potentially do the research for them?
Yeah, if I could endorse everything that Anne's just said, and I think this is one of those kind of, it's almost a philosophical question, and governments aren't very good at philosophy, but it's one of those questions that does come up. There's another one which we bump into quite often in the Justice Committee about how do you deal with two conflicting High Court decisions when nobody's ever appealed them, and the reality is that there should be a mechanism for somebody somewhere to appeal it so we know what the law is, and the same must apply here. There plainly is some research that could be done. It could be hugely beneficial to patients and indeed to the government, but it isn't going to be done by the normal people who are looking to make a profit out of it, and the government needs to get its mind around how do we deal with that situation where the normal economical ways of operating aren't going to give us the right answer. The government needs actually to have a solution.
Yeah. It's a big issue. Okay, so it's agreed that we continue with this petition. Thank you very much. Anne?
One more thing, that we ask the government for what the action points were from the meeting that they had with the petitioner, because I understand we've asked and not received the notes of that meeting, but there is no point in agreeing to meet petitioners just to pacify them. You know, there is no point coming away from that meeting and not actually doing something about it. And I think this is really very important. So I would like to, if we could write and ask what the action points were and when these action points will be carried out.
That's great. We continue with the petition. Thank you very much, and on those terms.